I was standing in my garage with the side door still open behind me, listening to my wife tell another man that she missed him and that she was waiting for the right time to divorce me and get alimony. We had been married 24 years. My heart stopped. I felt it stop and then start again, and I did not move because if I moved, she was going to hear me. I had come home from work early that day, and my wife was off, and for some reason, I did not go in through the front door. I went around to the side of the house, and the side door to the garage was open, so I walked in that way, and I was 2 steps inside when I heard her voice coming through the door to the house. She was not talking the way she talks to her sister. She was soft, and she was laughing low, and she said, "I miss you too." And then she said, "I am just waiting for the right time, and when I do it, I am getting alimony. I am not walking away from this with nothing after all these years." Then she laughed again at something he said. I never heard his voice or a name. Then I backed out. I went out the same side door, eased it shut, walked back to my van, got in, and slammed the door as hard as I could so it would sound like I had just pulled in. Then I walked up to the front door and let myself in. She was sitting on the couch watching TV with her phone on the cushion next to her. She looked up and said, "Hey, you are home early," and she smiled at me. I said the job finished up ahead of schedule, and I went and changed my clothes. Deep down, I was panicking because I had no idea what to do right away, and I knew if I opened my mouth, I was going to say the wrong thing, so I kept it shut. I had dinner with my wife that night, and I asked her about her day, and she told me about something that happened at her work, and she was her normal friendly self, and the whole time I was thinking, who are you talking to? I did not confront her because I was afraid that if I said anything, she would know that I knew, and whatever she was planning would just speed up, and I would be the one caught flat-footed. I needed a day. Both of our kids were out of the house and living on their own. She ran the cafeteria at an elementary school, and I made about twice what she did, and that is why she was talking about alimony. Our intimacy had fallen off a little over the last year. Not bad, but enough for me to notice, and I had put it down to us getting older. I had never once thought she was cheating. The next morning, after my wife left for work, I called a buddy of mine that I served with because he is the one man I trusted with it, and I told him exactly what I had heard through that door. He was quiet for a second, and then he said, "Okay, first thing, do not say a word to her." He said, "Dig up everything about what she is doing, find out if she is cheating, and then make sure she does not get a damn dime." And then he said, "Legally, you hear me? Legally, do it the right way, or she wins." He had been through a divorce a few years back, and he had done a couple of things wrong at the start that cost him, so he walked me through them. He said, "Do not move any money, do not touch her phone, do not tape her calls, do not sleep with her, and get a lawyer before anything else." I asked him what he meant about the sleeping with her part, and he said, "Just trust me, ask the lawyer." So I got a lawyer. I called around on my lunch break and took the first one who could see me that week, and I sat in his office 2 days later and told him the same thing I told my buddy. He wrote it down, and then he asked me how I heard it, and I told him through the door from my garage, inside my house. He said, "Good, you were in your house, you were not recording anything, you did not go into her phone, that is all fine, now keep it that way." Then he told me what Alabama does with a cheating spouse. Adultery is a ground for divorce here, and if I could prove it, the judge could deny her alimony, and the judge could also hold the cheating against her when he split up the property. Not automatically, he said, the judge decides, but when the proof is strong, they do it, and he had seen it done plenty of times. Then he said, "Now listen to this one. If I found out she was cheating and kept sleeping with her anyway, that could count as me forgiving it, and it could kill the adultery claim. So from that day, No, that was what my buddy meant. I told him that part was going to be easy, and he said, good. Then he gave me the list of what I was allowed to do. The phone plan was in my name, so I could pull the call and text logs on the account anytime I wanted, the numbers and the times, not the messages. And that was legal. It was my account. The bank accounts and the credit cards were joint, so I could go through every statement going back as far as I wanted. He told me to get a licensed investigator because a licensed investigator's report and photos will hold up in court. And he told me not to hide $1, not to move $1, and not to change a single lock because the house was hers as much as mine until a judge said otherwise, and if I moved money first, the judge would hold it against me. So that is what I did. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the spare room we used as an office, and I logged into the phone account and pulled the last 3 months. It took me about 10 minutes to find it. One number, over and over, from the first page to the last. Calls at 9 and 10 at night on the days I worked late, calls on her lunch break at the school, and a few that went an hour or more. There were a lot of texts to that same number too, and I could see the times, but not the words. I went back another 3 months and another, and the number was there the whole way, getting heavier, and it got really heavy around 2 weekends over the winter when she had gone to food service trainings for the school district. I had driven her to the car rental place for those weekends. The district paid for the rental, and she had put in for every out-of-town training they offered that year. I ran the number through one of those lookup websites, the free kind, and it came back to a man in a city about 2 hours from us, and it gave me a first name and a last initial, and that was all. I did not know the name. I wrote it on a sticky note and put the sticky note in my wallet. Then I went through the card statements. On the first training weekend, there was a steakhouse charge in that city on our card, big enough for 2 people, and the district fed her at those trainings. So there was no reason for her to be buying anybody a steak dinner. On the second one, there was a hotel on the card. That was not the hotel she told me the district had put her in, and it was for 2 nights, and it was on our card. There was a charge at a men's clothing store in that city in between the 2 weekends, a little over $300, and nothing new ever showed up in my closet. And there was a pattern of gas charges on Saturdays when I was at work, and she told me she was at her sister's. She was putting gas in the car that was far from her sister's. I printed every one of those statements and the phone logs and put them in a big envelope, and I kept the envelope in my van under the seat. Then I called the investigator. The investigator was licensed with the state, and he charged me $3,500 up front for a week of work. I gave him a photo of my wife, the sticky note with the name and the city, the hotel off the card statement, and the make and color of her car. I told him I did not want him to guess at anything. I wanted pictures and times. Then I went home and waited. She was sweeter that month than she had been in a year. She made my favorite dinner twice. She started sitting closer to me on the couch, and one night she reached for me in bed for the first time in months, and I told her I had pulled something at work and my back was killing me, and I rolled over. She said, "Okay, baby, feel better," and she kissed my shoulder. About 2 weeks after I hired the investigator, she told me the district had another food service training coming up, 2 days, same city, and could I drop her at the car rental place again? I said, sure. I texted the investigator the dates and the name of the district's hotel. He was in that city before she was. She left on a Friday morning, and I drove her to the rental counter and kissed her goodbye and told her to text me when she got there. And she did. She texted me a picture of the lobby of her district hotel. She just was not staying in it. The investigator called me Sunday night after I picked her up, and he said, "I have what you need. Come see me tomorrow. I do not do this part over the phone." I went to his office the next afternoon. He turned his computer screen around and walked me through it, one picture at a time, and he said the full report would be in my email by the end of the day. Friday at 6 in the evening, my wife walking out of the hotel the district booked her in with her bag and getting into a silver car driven by a man. Friday at 6:20, the two of them walking into a different hotel, the one off my card statement, him with his arm around her waist. Saturday morning, the two of them coming out of that hotel together, him carrying her bag. Saturday at noon, the two of them at a restaurant patio, and in one picture, she is feeding him off her fork, and in the next one, they are kissing on the mouth. Saturday night, back into the same hotel, and he got a picture of the room number on the door, same room. Sunday morning, out together, and she did not go back to the district's hotel once the whole weekend, except to check out. He had the man's name, his full name, and it matched the sticky note he had where the man worked, and it turned out he ran food service for a different school district. The last thing on the screen was her AP, and the man was married. The investigator had his wife's name and an address, and he said, "I am not telling you what to do with that. I am just telling you it is in the report." I thanked him, paid him the rest of what I owed him, and drove back to work and finished my shift. I took the report to my lawyer the next day, and he went through it slower than I had. And when he got to the patio pictures, he tapped the screen and said, "That is opportunity and that is inclination. That is what a judge needs. You did this right." Then he asked me if anything had happened between me and my wife since the day I heard her on the phone, and I said no, and he said, "Keep it that way because her lawyer is going to ask." He wanted to file that week. I asked him to give me a few days. I wanted to hear her plan from her mouth before she knew I was coming. So, that weekend, on the back porch, both of us standing there with coffee, I asked her something. I said, "Do you ever think about us not being married?" She did not even flinch. She said, "No, why would you ask me that?" And she put her hand on my arm and said, "We are fine. We are just in a slow season. Every couple our age has one." She was going to lie to my face for as long as it took. I told my lawyer to file. He filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery, with the dates and the hotel, and the investigator right there in the complaint. And he asked the court right away for an order that neither one of us could move money, sell anything, or run up the cards while the case was going. He also told me she was going to be served by a process server, and that within reason, I could tell the server where and about when to find her, and I told him. She had another training coming up in 2 weeks. She left on a Friday, and I drove her to the rental counter like always, and kissed her goodbye like always. And on Sunday, when she drove the rental back in, the man who served her was standing at that counter waiting for her, and he asked her name, and he handed her the papers right there in the rental office in front of the clerk, with her weekend bag still on her shoulder. I know that because I was parked out front, where I always park to pick her up. She came out of that office holding the envelope in both hands, and she looked across the lot and found my van, and she did not walk to it. She stood there on the curb and opened the papers and started reading them, and I watched her get to the part about the investigator because her whole body changed, her shoulders went down, and her head came up, and she looked straight at me. Then she walked to the van. She got in, and she shut the door, and she did not say a word for the first 5 minutes of that drive, and I did not either. Then she said, "You had me followed." I said, "Since the garage." She said, "What garage?" And I told her I came home early, and I came in the side door, and I heard her tell him she missed him, and I heard her say she was waiting for the right time to divorce me and that she was getting alimony. She cried the rest of the way home, and when we pulled into the driveway, she did not get out. She turned in the seat and looked at me and told me the plan, all of it. His divorce was going to be final in the spring. That is what he had told her. She was going to wait for that, and then a few months after, so nothing looked connected, she was going to tell me she was not happy anymore and file it as incompatibility, no fault, nice and clean, and ask for alimony and her half of everything, and I would have never known about him. Then she said, nobody can prove I slept with him. All anybody can prove is that I had dinner with a man. And I said, the judge gets to decide that, not you. And I got out of the van. She packed a bag that night and went to her father's place. Nobody told her to. She just went. And her lawyer later tried to make it sound like I put her out. And I did no such thing. I called our kids the next morning, both of them, one after the other, and told them their mother and I were getting a divorce and that I had filed it and why. I did not hand them the pictures and I did not call their mother names. I just told them what I heard through that door and what the investigator found. And I told them I was sorry they had to hear any of it. Our son said, Dad, do you need me to come down there? And he came down that weekend and slept in his old room 2 nights and mowed my yard without being asked. Our daughter was quieter, and she went and saw her mother first, and then she came and saw me, and she told me she had asked her mother to her face if it was true, and her mother said it was complicated, and our daughter said, Mom, it is a yes or no question, and her mother did not say no. She hugged me hard in the driveway before she left. Her lawyer came in swinging. The first thing he filed was a request for temporary support, money from me to her every month while the case was going, on top of what she made at the school. And the second thing he did was attack the adultery claim the only way he had left. He argued condonation, which is the legal word for forgiving it. His argument was, this man says he knew in the spring, and he stayed in the house with her for 2 more months, ate dinner with her, slept in the same bed, so either he forgave it or he never believed it. And either way, the adultery claim should go away. My lawyer had told me that was coming the day I walked into his office. So, when we got in front of the judge, my lawyer said, my client stayed in his home because it is his home, and he cannot put his wife out of it, and he did not sleep with her. And if her side has any evidence that he did, let them put it up. They did not have any. She did not get up there and swear to it, and her lawyer let it go. The judge denied the temporary support that same morning. About 3 weeks before the final hearing, her lawyer called mine with an offer. She would drop the alimony claim, all of it, if I agreed to drop the adultery ground and let the divorce go through on incompatibility, no fault, with everything split straight down the middle, 50-50, and nobody's name in any paper that said the word adultery. My lawyer told me it was a decent offer and that a lot of people take it because it ends fast and it keeps the ugly part out of the courthouse. I slept on it. Then I told him no, because 50-50 was exactly what she had been planning to walk away with before I ever heard that phone call. And the only difference in her offer was that she was giving up the alimony she was never going to get anyway. I wanted the judge to hear it. Her lawyer called back the next day and asked if I would do 55-45, and my lawyer told him we would see him at the hearing. Then it went to the final hearing. My lawyer subpoenaed him. The man, the food service man from the other district, got a piece of paper that said he had to come sit in a courtroom in our county and answer questions under oath about my wife, and his wife found out why, and she came with him. There was no divorce, by the way. My lawyer had checked the courthouse, nothing filed, nothing pending. He had told my wife a story, and she had believed it. His wife sat on the back bench. My wife saw her come in and turned back around in her chair and did not look back there again. The man got on the stand, and my lawyer asked him how he knew my wife, and he said, through work. Then my lawyer asked him if he had spent the night in a hotel room with her on a specific weekend in that city, and the man looked at his lawyer, and then he looked at the judge, and he said, he was going to refuse to answer that question on the grounds that it might incriminate him. Adultery is still a crime in Alabama. Nobody ever gets charged with it, but it is on the books. So he had the right to do that, and he did it. He did it for the second hotel weekend, and for the patio, and for the clothing store, and for the phone calls, and for the Saturdays. 6 times, with his wife sitting on that back bench, he refused to answer a question about my wife, because the truth might get him charged with a crime. In a divorce case, the judge is allowed to take that refusal into account, and my lawyer stood up and asked him to. Her lawyer got his turn with me too. He asked me if I had my wife followed, and I said yes, by a licensed investigator after I overheard her. He asked me why a man who believed his wife was cheating would go on living under the same roof with her, and I said, because it is my house, and my lawyer told me I could not leave it, and I could not put her out of it, so I stayed, and I slept on my side of the bed, and she slept on hers. He asked me if I still loved her, and I said I did not know how to answer that, and the judge told him to move on. Then it was my wife's turn, and she did not take the fifth. She got up there and cried and said we had grown apart, and that he was a friend who understood her, and that nothing physical ever happened. My lawyer put the patio picture on the screen, the kissing one, and asked her if that was a friend who understood her, and she said yes, and he sat down. The judge ruled right then. He said the adultery was proven by the investigator, by the phone logs, by the card statements, and by a man who took the fifth 6 times rather than answer. He said she was not getting alimony, not $1 of it, not temporary, not rehabilitative, not anything. And he said the reason was adultery. Then he got to the property, and he said he was taking her conduct into account there too, which the law in Alabama lets him do. She kept her pension and her car and her half of a savings account that was mostly hers anyway. My retirement stayed mine. The house got sold, and out of what was left after the loan, she got 40% and I got 60. And before she got her 40, he made her pay back every dollar off those statements, the hotel, the steak dinner, the clothes, the gas, a little over $2,000, because that was my money too, and she spent it on him. I called my buddy that night and told him he had been right about all of it. About a week after the hearing, my phone rang from a number I did not know, and it was his wife. She said she was sorry for what the two of them had done to me, and she asked me for the investigator's name, and I gave it to her. She filed on him about a month after she sat on that bench, and she used the same investigator I did. He and my wife lasted about 2 months after the divorce, and then our daughter told me her mother was complaining to her sister that he was cheap and never around, and then it was over. She is still running that cafeteria. She is in an apartment a few minutes from the school by herself. She texted me at Christmas and said she hoped I was doing okay, and I never answered any of her texts. I bought a smaller place. I paid cash for half of it, and the first thing I did when I moved in was put a lock on the side door of the garage. Well, here we go. Another story where a woman thinks the grass is greener on the other side after 24 years of marriage. All I'm going to say is he got lucky. He happened to come home early from work, went through the garage, and overheard his wife betraying him. And he made a statement about his heart stopping. My theory is that little hesitation probably saved him from doing something stupid. And I'm going to say this again. If you're going through a divorce, always listen to your lawyer. Most of the time, they know the laws better than you do. Listen, after a marriage or a relationship ending, after that time, you're allowed to grieve, just like you are allowed to grieve the loss of a loved one. A long-term relationship will probably give you the same emotions. And another thing, if you need therapy, take it. A lot of people will get clowned because a man needs therapy. My theory on that, a man needing therapy, that therapy may prevent him from doing something stupid that may cause him to lose his freedom over someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship or has cheated. They are not worth that. Just because you need therapy doesn't make you any less of a man. See you in the next one.